It always comes under different headlines in countless forms. The goal has always been the same: grow money, keep the people dependent. Let's examine some of the simple yet effective strategies that have been used for years. Inflation. When a government wants to spend more than it has two options. Either it openly increases taxes, which is politically risky, or it quietly reduces the value of its currency units through backdoor operations. Ancient Rome implemented this very professionally. In the 3rd century AD, as military expenses soared, emperors drastically reduced the silver content in the denarius. First, pure silver coins, then coins with copper cores and a thin silver layer. The public, unaware of what was happening, suffered a loss in their pockets. Inflation skyrocketed, savings vanished, salaries were crushed under the loss of purchasing power, all subtly, like a tax. Today, the same scenario continues with central banks. In the Middle Ages, another version emerged: compulsory loans. The kings of England, France, and Spain made borrowing from wealthy merchants and guilds a routine. Lending, of course, wasn't entirely voluntary. Refusal meant fines, confiscation of property by the treasury, and other penalties. Rarely was repayment with interest guaranteed, and often it never happened. While the state maintained wars and palaces, merchants had to give up their earnings. These impositions, under the name of national duty, continued for centuries. By the 17th century, things had taken a different shape. The financial system took center stage. In 1694, the Bank of England was founded, but not as a savior. The government needed funds to wage war against France. Wealthy individuals bought government bonds, and the crown supported repaying them with interest. Doesn't that seem like a very reasonable action? But who was paying the taxes? On goods like salt, beer, cloth, ordinary citizens. The wealthy lent money and increased their profits from interest. The poor paid through taxes. Wealth transfer continued in this way. Even today, the policy hasn't changed. Buying government bonds may seem safe, but the bill is ultimately passed to the public. Nowadays, 1,000 clever schemes continue. Budget deficits. Governments take on debts they cannot repay. Bonds are marketed, and investors, banks, and foreigners line up to acquire them. Politicians speak of roads, jobs, social programs. Yet most of the funds flow to defense companies, corporate incentives, and aid programs. When repayment comes due, they suddenly raise taxes, print money, and cut minor expenditures. These debts are presented as for the people, but the burden falls on ordinary citizens, while profits go to those holding bonds. Let's look at the 2008 crisis. Banks took enormous risks, pushed toxic mortgages, and the entire system collapsed. Who paid the price? Ordinary citizens. And who profited? The same banks, now stronger than before. The scenario is simple. Income is privatized. Costs are socialized. Take pension systems, for example. For decades, people deposit money into state systems, thinking, I'll have income when I retire. Unfortunately, the government mostly spends this money and passes the repayment burden onto future generations. In short, a Ponzi-like scheme persists across generations. Until the system becomes blocked, it continues. Then benefits are reduced, retirement age rises, repayments evaporate through inflation. Do you see? Every process is managed through perception. Inflation is growth, compulsory loans are duty, national debt is investment, bailouts are stability, pension cuts are reforms. These narratives obscure reality. Wealth flows from the bottom up. History shows that these scripted scenarios have always been useful because most of us are still ignorant of economic history, unable to read the financial system, and blind to the traps. Today, everything is much more sophisticated. Quantitative easing, hidden taxes, complex regulations. They print money, inflate asset prices. For whose benefit? Of course, asset owners. The middle class gains little. Inflation and cost of living rise. Is the scenario always the same? The system supports a small elite at the top, while the majority suffers. In short, history is nothing but repetition. Rome devalued valued its currency. Kings were forced into borrowing. Modern states play with inflation and debt. Different times, same mechanics. And most people still don't understand the situation. The worst part, humanity is asleep. So what could be the solution? Don't be misled by headlines. When you hear good news, incentives, reform, ask yourself who benefits from this. Accumulate assets that retain and increase their value. Never ever lose awareness that this system does not work for you. The system always looks out for itself, not for you. The same scenarios that drove the people of Rome into poverty are now eroding the value of your bank accounts. The only difference is whether you notice, understand, and act. If this has given you a new perspective, keep expanding your horizons by subscribing. History repeats itself. I will show you clearly and distinctly how past centuries relate to the present. God be with you.